You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello and welcome to the 42 Cast, your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything. As always, I am your host, Nathan, and we have another great episode lined up for you where we're going to talk about For All Mankind. But before we do that, let's meet our cast for this week. So, starting off, he is the director of the whole ESO network, and that is Mike Faber.
Hello,
Hi,
Nathan.
Bob.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Bob. Hi, Bob.
So, yeah, how have things been going, Mike? I think it's been since January.
Has it been that long? It just feels like it was yesterday. I know. But yeah.
Talking about what if.
Exactly. That's true. It's been fantastic, my friend. Just busy. We just moved up to a new state and we're living further north. So it's pretty awesome. And you know what? It's all going good. ESO is doing great right now. All our shows are getting better and better all the time. And, you know, it's a neat experience. And it's just geekdom at its best right now. And you got to be careful with it because it could be so toxic at the same time.
Not on this show, though.
No, of course not. You're light of positivity, my friend.
Well,
and
I'm not sure I'd go that far, but don't think we veer into toxic.
Are we talking about the same Nathan here?
Yeah, I know. I was trying to be nice to the host. I'm buttering him up, you know.
So what prompted the move, Mike?
It was time to leave Atlanta, and you know, it's just been getting more and more crowded. It was literally almost an hour to get anywhere. And there's memes joking about, but it's the truth. Even to get to the airport from where I lived, it was 32 miles, but it sometimes took us over an hour and a half to get there, to 2 hours.
Oh, geez.
And so it's just ridiculous. And we were ready for a change, and we had a list of like 20 cities, and we just slowly over the years been narrowing it down. And so we ended up in Raleigh, North Carolina. So
very cool.
It's very cool. And it's been beautiful so far. We've been here since August and slowly putting the house together. And as Judy likes to say, I have my attic now. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Have your own podcasting space. My podcasting space is my office. So it's kind of the same thing. So,
well, mine is my office too, because I work from home. So, you know, so it's a cool thing. So it's like I just go upstairs in the morning and don't leave till about midnight. So it's perfect.
All right. Well, it's great to have you back on the show, Mike.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Next up, we have the world's foremost Flash fan, and that is Sean. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. How are you doing?
Hi, Bob.
Doing all right.
Hi, Bob.
How have things been going for you since the last time you were on, Sean?
Well, I'm having a fun moment where I forgot to take my meds today, so I'm feeling a little bit loopy because my ADHD now, when I don't treat it and I just let it run rampant, oh my God, it's like just put a kid in a candy store and say until you die. And that's basically my brain right now. But no, things are good. You know, Laura and I have started our own physical brick and mortar store called Pop Cycled. We dropped the baubles, and that is been a crazy experience in both good and bad ways. You know, we get to find out all sorts of cool things about what it takes to kind of keep a company running, and at the same time, just how much you have to finagle everything. So it's really a great learning experience, but it's also extremely stressful, which I think anybody who's ever opened up a business will tell you, especially that first year, you're just nothing but a bundle of nerves. So we're right in the middle of it, and we're just a bundle of nerves, but we're getting through it, getting ready for the holiday season. And other than that, you know, been doing a lot of writing, doing a lot of artwork, and just living life, man.
Congratulations on the store.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, excellent. And yeah, I'm happy to hear that things are going, I understand it's a little stressful, but you are entering into that time of year when people like to drop a lot of money. So, things should be on the up and up there. And
Yeah, as I
yeah.
tell people, things are going absolutely mediocre, and that's pretty much where we can expect it to be for.
Mm.
They're not terrible. They're not
Hmm.
great. They're very meh. And you know what? I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think very few people are like crazy successful right out the box. I think it takes
Hmm.
time, and so that's what we're doing. So we're on target, Captain. But I don't know if we're going to hit the moon before the Russians.
Okay. Very nice. I like that you worked in a topical reference there. So
There you go. I do my best, man.
yeah.
I'm here for you, sir. I'm here for you.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
But
You're welcome.
it's good to have you back on the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
All right, next up, I feel a disturbance in the force, and I think it is Ashley. How are you doing, Ashley?
Hello, thank you so much for having me back. I'm really excited to talk about this show with you guys.
Yeah, it's always great to have you on. I think I it's been a while. I mean, it's definitely been a while. And has it been 2 years since you were on, or were you on something more recently than that?
Oh gosh, yeah, I've had a while back had to step away from geek stuff for a little bit just due
Mm.
to some family and health things, but in a good place now and have really loved kind of getting back into the geeky swing of things. So I've been blogging for ESO again, working on some cosplay, some nerdy crafts. So I feel like I've got my geeky groove back. So it's been nice to get back in the zone.
Were you on the day the Earth stood still?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so it
And
hasn't
that
been two
was
years. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I
I'm
was glad to
always
share that with
down
you.
to talk about sci-fi. So
Yes.
it doesn't take too much to rope me into that.
Hmm. Yeah, retro sci-fi is again kind of topical to what we're
Yes,
talking
yes.
about at least for the early part of the show. So, yeah, it's very cool. Oh, it's good to have you. It's good to have you back on the show, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Next up is somebody that you hear all the time on the show. He absolutely hated the DCEU and is glad that the DCU is here, and that is Nate. How are you, Nate?
Hey,
Oh,
I'm doing great. Nathan, I'm doing fine. Mm. I'm not adjusting to this new time difference. The fall backing is not,
mm.
it's weird. It's pitch black when I get off work, and I can't believe that I live like this for 6 months of the year. It doesn't seem like this. It's ever been
It's
this
only for
dark
4 months,
before.
really.
Okay,
It's
4 months, but
November
still,
through like beginning of March is when we spring
it's
forward.
just, it's awful. It's just
Yeah.
terrible, and I hate it. About
Well, okay. I mean, this too shall pass.
We'll get there. We'll get through this together.
Yeah. So anything new and exciting going on in the past week other than falling back?
Yeah, since the last time
Yeah,
we
since the
were
last
talking.
time you're on.
No, my son went fishing, and he's 8 years old, and he caught his first rainbow trout,
Hmm.
and he was very proud of his. It was probably it was less than 8 inches, but he was very proud of it. It
Well,
was
that's
a good
cool.
moment for him. Yeah, yeah. He's getting into. He likes fishing now, so I guess I like fishing.
That's
But that's my
oh,
new
see, I
hobby.
assumed you liked
I'm
fishing,
now
and that's why you were
no, I
taking him
don't. I
fishing.
don't. I think it's incredibly boring.
Yeah, so
And I don't. And I find people who like, not in general, but just when people talk about fishing, it's kind of, I don't like talking about fishing. So I guess I gotta like fishing now. So we're gonna be fishing more.
Well, that's good
Gonna
though.
get
It's
him.
something you can
Yeah.
do bonding with your son.
A hobby. It's a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad absolutely loved fishing. I found it to be the most excruciatingly boring thing. I am right with you. Like I
Mm.
hated going fishing. But I also never caught anything, so that was part of why I was just like I'm just
Yeah.
sitting there for like hours like nothing's happening.
Exactly.
Like, nothing's happening. So maybe it'd be more exciting if I was catching things constantly. I don't know, but
Welcome back to Fishing Talk, where both Nathans
Fishing
going
Talk.
to talk about fishing.
Nathan's.
Yeah, we're gonna
We've
talk
hit the
about it.
nadir of podcasts.
Two
on
Nathans
fishing.
on
Talk
fishing.
He says,
Do
"Am I
not
on the
talk
right
too loud.
podcast?"
Do not talk too loud, or you'll scare the fish away.
The gentle springs and the fishies.
But I do love, Nate, that you told me that you wanted your core trait, the thing I introduced you as, is you hated the DCEU.
Yes, that you forced me to watch the DCEU.
Yeah, that I forced you to watch it. I held a gun to your head all the way in
Forced,
North
yeah.
Carolina. I was
Yes,
just like, I
yes.
pointed it.
Yep.
Nate,
And you said,
gotta
"That's it.
watch this.
You gotta do it."
And then he got to
I
Black
said,
Adam, and he was like, "I hate you." That was the final straw. No,
He made it all the way to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Like, you were a
"Oh my
trooper, Nate.
gosh."
dude, you made
Yeah.
it further than me because I still haven't watched that Aquaman sequel, and I'm just like, I'm good.
I can't bring
Yeah.
myself to do it. Nope.
I think you guys are okay just letting it sit.
Yeah. We'll just put that over there and leave it there.
My wife wanted to watch it. She said, "But it's Jason Momoa and he doesn't have a shirt on." And it's like, no.
He actually has a shirt on a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He's not in the same. He didn't cut as much as he did
Yeah.
for. He talked about it in interviews how it's really hard work to maintain that physique for as long as a period.
Yeah, he's like, they're paying me the same money anyway, so why work out if I don't have to?
And he had his shirt on a lot, just like Batista for Drax. He was just like, it's not healthy. I can't maintain it.
No, exactly. Totally makes sense.
All right, it's good to have you back on the show, Nate.
Great to be here.
All right, so normally we'd have a 5-minute controversy here, but with 4 guests, it's just a little too crowded, I think, for a 5-minute controversy. It ended up taking half an hour. So instead, we just did fish talk. That was your 5-minute controversy. But instead, we're going to move right on to talking about For All Mankind. But first, we're going to pause for a promo from another fine podcast.
There are a lot of great podcasts that review Doctor Who episodes in order. The Earth Station Who podcast is not one of them. Just like the Doctor, we never know where or when we'll end up, but we'll have a lot of fun talking about it. From classic Who to new series and big finish, join the Earth Station Who crew wherever fine podcasts are found. Earth Station Who is a founding member of the ESO Network.
And we're back. And like we mentioned, we are talking about the Apple Plus TV series For All Mankind. So for those who have not heard about this show, what it is an alternate take on the US space program where the Russians made it to the moon first. And then all of the things that spin out because of that difference to the timeline on both the micro level of the characters in NASA, but also on the macro level of the geopolitical situation of the world. And each season moves forward about 10 years. So you follow the same characters, but new characters come in, characters come out, because time keeps rolling on. So the latest season was just in the 2000s, and the next season is going to be in the 2000 teens. But there have been 4 seasons so far. So just as a sort of intro to it. And of course, if you are somebody who worries about spoilers, we will be talking about this show. So if you don't want to be spoiled, pause the podcast, go watch the 4 seasons of For All Mankind, and then come back to listen to us talk about it.
It's only 40
not
hours.
that many episodes. Yeah, it's not that many episodes.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, season, I mean, it's chump change, right? Like, it's just like, 10 episodes a season. In my day, kids, a season was 26 episodes, and we liked it. I mean, it was more content.
There was some filler in there.
There's still, yes, totally.
All right. So, this show to me is very unusual. I don't know any other show to like fully compare it to. There are aspects of this show that I've seen in other shows, but to me, this show is very unique in what it is. So I would like to go around the whole panel first and talk about what to you is a thing that like really hooked you into this show? And then we'll all sort of talk about that one topic, and then we'll move on to the next person, like pick another thing that's like you feel like a hook, to this show, and we'll talk about that topic. So let's start with you on this one, Ashley.
Yeah, this is one of those shows where I didn't even need to see a trailer. When I heard the concept, I was immediately hooked because I feel like it's that perfect marriage of two of my interests, which I love, like real life history, NASA, the space program, and then also we have this science fiction alternate history. Ever since I was a kid, I've been super interested in like NASA. I remember even doing a like book report about the Apollo 11 moon landing and thinking that was just the coolest thing ever as a kid. And so I've enjoyed watching some of the adaptations, more historically based of the moon landing. But I love the concept for this, like taking one very significant moment in time, the opposite of what actually happened happens. And just like you said, how history kind of spirals out from that and goes in a different direction. And you're able to bring some of those historical details where it feels very much like a period drama in the first season and then gradually gets more and more science fiction based as, technology accelerates faster in this series timeline than it did like in real life history. So I think it's great. It draws elements from history, but also has that speculative science fiction element to it. And I just think that's very cool and was really well done. And again, something unique and different that I don't think I've seen before.
Yeah, I gotta say, in the first couple of seasons, especially when they're using like actual archival footage of various political figures, but just having like a
Yeah.
sound alike
Yeah.
do like the voices, like to, put words in their mouth. That was always really because I was like, oh my God, this is almost like a docudrama, like kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this alternate world, which I was like, that's very interesting. I
It
really like that.
it feels very grounded, especially like the first two seasons. It feels like, well, this is something that could have happened. It looks like there really are people living on the moon. I think they did a great job of kind of keeping it grounded and making it seem like this is a realistic way history could have developed if just a few things were different.
Yeah, I mean, is anybody aware of like any other show that does anything like this? Because I can't.
I mean, there are plenty of novels that do it, but
Hmm.
yeah, there's not really a whole lot of shows that take one specific event. Even though I would like to ask a sub question to the crowd, which is, in your opinion, and there is a correct answer for this, what is the event that changes history in For All Mankind?
Oh,
I
I know
know
the
that
answer to
one.
this because I
I know
read
that
the
one too.
yeah, the I read the showrunner's answer to this, so I know the
Yeah, but
answer.
I'm a historian, so I know quite well the father of the Soviet space program. What was his name? Sergei Korolev, I think it was.
That's correct.
Uh, and he passed away in 1966. And in this alternate timeline, he didn't pass away, and he was able to push the Russian space program to be able to beat the Americans to the moon.
Mm.
And that's the premise of the show, is that the Russians made it there a month before Apollo 11. And, it goes off from there. And it was just awesome to see it. And that's how the show starts. And I love what they're doing with it and everything. And, it's it's awesome because it's science fiction, it's fantasy, but it's based in reality. And a
Mhm.
lot of the technologies they used in the show all the way up probably into the early 90s was based off of the technology that was being developed by NASA and also by the Soviet Union at the time, to, even the nuclear rockets and being shot off from sea. That was all on paper. That was all being created. And that's one of the things that drew me to the show. And it was interesting. Before I started watching this, um, Disney and National Geographic did a remake of A Few Good Men. And it was, no, sorry, the right stuff.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
and it tied in almost like right from where the right stuff ended, and that's where For All Mankind picked up. And it was all the same era, the same, a lot of the same characters were involved, and I think they even might have had one or two of the same actors in the right stuff. So, I think some of the NASA admins and stuff at the time, because you even had Van Braun and everything. So it was pretty fascinating, and the series itself just took off, and I was hooked. How they did it and everything, because it is a what if story. Basically, and kind of ironic that was the last episode I sat in with
Right,
you.
yeah. Marvel's What If,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So, and I loved what they did, and the quality of the show is amazing and everything. And certain things in our history couldn't happen the way it went down because of them changing plans, because the Russians basically lost the space race after the Americans got to the moon first. And they couldn't, keep up with the Americans. And with the space race ending, basically America lost the interest to going to the moon in the early 70s. So it was pretty amazing with that.
Yeah, it was interesting to see, especially when the Russians made it first, that like the world started aligning itself more towards the Soviet Union, and you saw like, there was a lot of popularity of like Soviet iconography in Europe, and they're talking about like in England, like they were showing people like dressing with like, the Soviet flag and stuff like that. And so you saw like that same sort of like feeling of, of like worldwide, like, excitement at going to the moon, but it was focused on the Soviet Union and the other universe. And so like, that was one of the things that fascinated me early on, was I was like, oh, they really are going to play with the idea that like, this changes everything, because the whole world, because, people saw that the United States going to the moon and the Soviet program collapsing as one of the things that showed that like, the American system is better. But when they're neck and neck, it makes things completely different. Where, the Soviets won, but the Americans get there right away afterwards. And it's like so we see a Soviet Union that's lasting into the zeros in this other universe.
And beyond.
Right. And will be beyond. And so it hasn't collapsed yet within the show, if it ever will. So it's interesting because of how much that's changed, in how that world goes.
And it's true, because they don't focus on the nuclear weapons and arming to the teeth. Instead, they put that money to the space program for both sides, which was really interesting with the show. And, you guys had mentioned earlier about any other like movies or such where the alternate universe. One that came to mind, actually, it popped up while you guys were talking about it with the politics and everything, was The Watchmen, because that was a alternate history also, because of Dr. Manhattan changed the course of history in it, ending the Vietnam War early. And Nixon was president for all the way into the 80s and such. So it was pretty fascinating with that. And you got different things. You had different people coming to power. You had Reagan coming to power in 1976 in this. And, then you also had Kennedy as president at one point, which was, and I don't mean JFK.
Right. Robert Kennedy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, Teddy.
Oh, Teddy. You're right.
Because there was never a Chappaquiddick in this reality. And so he didn't fall from grace. And so, and it's interesting how they have as bonuses with the show, headlines in newspapers and news reports going on and everything. That's how committed they are to creating this environment.
Yeah, the beginning of every season, they're like, here's what happened in the last decade since last season. And you get like a huge like number of clips and like headlines and articles that will zoom across the screen so that you get kind of a feel, which I think is a good way to do that, because they're trying to info dump 10 years worth of stuff as the timeline has moved on, so that the audience at least has some idea of how to get their bearings on what's happening in the world, right now because of this.
Because you even had John Lennon not getting assassinated, but the Pope did instead. And John Paul got assassinated. So it was
and the guy in Egypt,
Sadat.
Yeah, he survived. Like, so they flipped assassinations, and it just splinters every jump in the season. there's more splintering, more changes, like where it just
Mhm.
started with one, and now it's like more and more and more. It's
Yeah,
really
although I do call some shenanigans that the pop culture seems to hew so close to our pop culture, where it's like
yeah.
the same songs are popular. Like by the
Yeah.
2000s, I would think there would be completely different popular entertainers than the ones
Yeah,
that
they
we had
still
in
made Jerry
our.
Maguire.
Right, like I'm like, because this world is so different now, like, but I don't know. We'll see how they address that next season. Maybe they will start to like insert like fictional like bands in there
Yeah,
and
but I
stuff.
think
But
that we're also not thinking about the fact that the vast majority of the world is still rolling the way it was rolling. We're seeing some interesting pop culture things. Politically, we're seeing a lot of different things. But when you step back, a lot of the political shenanigans that were going on just have slightly different players, which is one of the more interesting concepts of this show, which is that, the space race it has become all consuming, but that doesn't help Johnny down the block who can't, feed his family. So somebody like Bruce Springsteen still comes into, his own and whatnot and talks about, Born of
Right.
USA, and you have all these little things that, could still very reasonably happen. You could have, these actors and movies still be made because they're not dealing with the space race. Now, if you want to talk about stuff that would be 100% affected by that, I would like to see what their version of Star Trek The Next Generation looks like.
yeah, well, they
I
talk
would have.
about how Star Trek had 4 seasons in this universe.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
there's only three Star Treks that happen. Start
Right.
TOS Phase 2, and then Next Generation, and that's all that's happened so far. So it's really
Right.
very
Interesting.
So,
But
does Babylon 5 ever happen in that world? Like what other weird space sci-fi stuff happens because of the fact that, you have the space race being such an important, cornerstone, and to be quite frank, that is the world and what we're building up to is that's the world that we all thought we were going to get. It is the world for all mankind. But because we won the space race, we got bored of space, which is just in my brain the most just stupid reason of all time. It's like, well, it's not important anymore. It's like, are you kidding me? We get all of our best ideas from when we try to do something in space.
Mm.
oh, of
Like
course,
space
of
is
course.
never boring.
Yeah, you kind of
Well,
took what mine was going to be, Sean, because one of the things that I love about this show is that it shows what the space technology does for us. Because every time I bring up like, hey, we should really invest in space, almost everybody that I talk to is like, why waste all our money on space? We have so many problems at home. And I'm like, guess what? When you solve the problems of living in space, which is the most harsh environment that you can imagine, then you create all sorts of technology that's beneficial at home. And so
well,
it actually
exactly.
pays for itself, you know?
That's very true because it's interesting too because they don't have gas shortages on Earth at this point on the show because they are fueled by the mining up on the moon that they've been doing and then now further in Mars, and that was the whole plot of the last season, was getting this asteroid that had all this rare mineral that would have been worth more money. Everyone on Earth would be a millionaire if they could mine it and everything.
And even beyond the resources in space, which is what you're talking about, Mike, which is another great point, the fact that we see the technology in that other world has progressed much faster than ours. So we see them with like iPods in the 90s. That was in season 3, which was in the 90s. We saw them listening to iPods. So they're 10 years ahead of us at least in a lot of the technology that they're using. So I mean, that's just showing that like, yeah, because as you're developing, material science, medical science, there's all this stuff that you have to do, computer science to
video
live
calling.
right. All
Yes.
communications, all of that stuff is needed to be able to work with people on Mars, to survive in those environments and all that kind of stuff. And then you have applications on Earth where it's like, oh, look, we have this super light, super strong material. Yeah, we can use that here. Like we have much better communications. We have much better computing power. So yeah, I love that this show is low key because they don't ever draw a thing to it because to those people it's just the natural progression of technology. But if you're
Well,
watching the show, it becomes obvious that it's like, whoa, they have way better tech at a much earlier time, than we
one of the
did.
things I love about the show, though, also, it's not all positive. There's negatives too, and there's bad things that happen. And that's just the cool thing about it. They had rockets explode, they had accidents, or, they even had a battle in the space station between the Americans and the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
And, so
one amazingly tense,
that was
scenario that they had. It's really very well done. But Nate, I know that we've kind of been talking here, and you haven't been able to get much in. Like, what's a thing that you feel is like a strong hook, on this show that we might not have talked about yet?
Something that I just overall of the 4 seasons so far is the storytelling. Every 10 episodes, every episode, and I noticed this when I was watching season 4, every episode maps to the same number episode in the previous seasons. The conflicts, and they're not, and it's not repeats, it's not retreads. It's just with different set dressing, but it's like, this is the big set piece action scene. This is the big space scene. This is the discovery scene. And it seemed like to me that they had this skeleton of season 1 and then every season they do season 2 and they go, okay, episode 1, this happens, episode 2, then this happens. And it doesn't really, and so even though it's like 10 years in advance and we're kind of dealing with some of the same characters, but we get some new ones, that the betrayal, the romance in this, the complicated relationships, all keep playing again and again and again in sort of like a cycle, and it's done in such a great way that you don't feel like they're just pandering to the audience, that it's more artistic. It's really good storytelling. It's really good writing, because they're able to reference things that happened in the previous season, but with like a different character or a different set dressing. So yeah, just overall, it's really good storytelling.
Yeah, I never realized that the structure was that like well defined between. Now I need to go back and look at that. That's
There's a forbidden
cool.
love. There's a forbidden love in every season.
Mm-hmm.
The first season is the 2 lesbians. Then it's second season, it's Karen and Danny. Third season, forget what happened in third season, but there's one in third season. And then fourth season was, third season was Kelly and the Russian Alexei, right? Mm-hmm. So every season there's a forbidden love. Every season there's unrequited longing. We can't be together, and that's usually Margot and Sergey. But
Beth said I should title this "Never Been Kissed: A Margot Story."
Oh yeah, that poor woman.
I feel so bad.
That poor woman. She's got the. I mean, they've taken everything away from Ed. Like they kick that man. We could get into the characters later, but yeah, Margot, unrequited longing, like those. It's sort of the same beat, and it follows the same structure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's familiar but different, and you want to see what's going to happen next, and how are they going to get out of this time. It's great. It's really good. It's spy thriller. There's a spy episode. There's always like 2 episodes that are spy episodes. It's just it's the same beats. That's all.
Yeah, I never realized that it was structured that like closely together. But I mean, I would say that the plotting and the development of the stories each season is very well done. I mean, it's one of the best written shows, hands down, that I've ever seen. Not just like right now, but like just like of all time. I would put it definitely in a very high ranking as far as like just how well the writing, how good the writing is on this show. Anyone else want to talk about like the writing and the plots of the series?
Well, not really, because that covers every topic that we're probably going to bring up. So
okay, fair enough.
Well, let's get there when we do.
Yeah. Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, so Sean, I know, I kind of jumped on the tech when you were talking about that, but do you have something else that you wanted to, talk about?
Well, I do. It actually comes down to the writing, like Nate was saying, but mine was specifically about how we recontextualize events that happen and how those recontextualized events have these really wonderful mirrors in what happened in our world. And the first thing I thought of was in season one, where you have Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin trying to land on the moon. Now, again, one of the things I love about the entirety of our space program is the fact that we look at everything we did as an accomplishment and as chutzpah, and as we were able to overcome vast, just horrible weights stacked against us, and succeeded in ways that no human had ever thought was possible before. And so here comes Buzz Aldrin, here comes Neil Armstrong, and they're coming in and they're ready to land. And just like in reality, they almost fub it at the finish line. They almost completely screw the pooch. And we're like, oh no, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then everything's fine, and it's one step for mankind, and yay, and USA wins. But in For All Mankind, same thing. We're almost to the finish line. They almost pooch it. They land, but it's an even worse landing. And then they're like, well, the Russians did it so cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, America got there, I guess, but Russia got there first, and they didn't have any fubs on the front. I mean, like seriously, like it is well documented that they missed their landing zone, and like they landed in a really bad area. And if you look at some of the footage that they show, like their landing gear is not on stable ground, like they're all kind of jacked up. Which is just a great little metaphor for exactly what's happening to this history. When we have the height of the Cold War going on, as the seasons progress, you have the handshake in space. Remember how important the handshake in space is for all mankind?
Mm-hmm.
Where in our reality, it would be like, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. But in their reality, it's the handshake in space. And I'm like, I love that. I love these parallels that they draw that are massive moments that recontextualize everything for people. But in the case of tearing down the wall, that was the fall, the literal fall of the Soviet Union. But the handshake in space is America and the Soviets can work together. Like
Mm-hmm.
they can actually make things work. And I thought that that was such a great thing. So for me, it's always about looking at the events that did happen or could have happened, and then how this show so brilliantly just twists things on their ear, and you get an echo of exactly what happened in our world, but it led to something different. And that is just such a fascinating thing. Even to the point where they talk to Ed, and they're like, "Why didn't Ed land on the moon? We were right there. What was it? 100 feet?"
Oh, the armchair quarterbacking on
Yes.
Ed's
Oh my God,
decision.
that poor
Oh my
guy.
God. Oh, I felt so bad for him. So I'm like, that's exactly what happens though, right? Like people
Yeah.
start like nitpicking decisions that people make because they're like, in hindsight, it seems like the wrong decision, but it's like he had no way of knowing. He was just following the orders he was given, and you just did the,
Yeah. It
like
was
the
like
things he was supposed to
It was like a
do.
few hundred yards. He was like a few hundred yards from the ground, and they're like, okay, come back up. And just what? What? Yeah, it's nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt for him, and I no, well, that was what was the things that I think hooked me right in the beginning is not only kind of to your point, not only was it showing, like a very real scenario that you could imagine, like if things had gone differently, this would have happened, but also like that, I think there is sort of this for people who actually believe in reality and believe the moon landings happen, not like people at my work who think that they were faked. But there's a lot of belief among people that it's something like a manifest destiny for the United States. Like of course, we went to the moon. That it was all like
Right,
you were
right.
talking about. It's just like our determination got us there, and it's like it was like it like the slightest thing off, like the slightest odds off, and like it would have gone very differently. And I like that they showed
Mhm.
that too, where it was like, oh, like they were under a little more stress than the actual Neil, Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were. So they slightly did it differently, and because of that, they almost completely, failed,
Yeah,
and killed themselves. And so it's like, these things spin on a dime, right? In
yeah,
history, like there are certain events where it's like it was luck that
right.
this turned out as well as it did, so I loved all of that too. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I love, to me, seeing the things that are like, I recognize that political figure, or I recognize this thing, and it's like a touchstone to our world, but just seeing how
Right.
different it is,
Mhm.
that's the stuff that really like it's like, oh, it's just so fascinating, like to
Yeah,
watch
and
that.
one of the best ones that I think was very subtle was the Apollo 13 save that never actually happened, but they knew about the O-ring, and so when they found out later on that the Russians were using that model, and so Margot slips in the information, it's like that's the Apollo 13 moment, and
No, it's a Challenger. Challenger.
that's right, it was the Challenger. I'm sorry, you're right, it was the Challenger, and it was like it was the Challenger moment. You're like, oh my God, like they skipped that, like it doesn't happen, it's just the
Challenger
craziest
never
little
happened.
moments. Yeah, Challenger never happens, and it's the craziest things that you see echo in our world. And Nathan and I are old enough to have been in grade school when Challenger happened. I mean, like literally, like we
I
were
was,
in school, let's watch the freaking
You
shuttle
guys are
go up.
so young,
I'm
so
the ancient
young.
of days, along with Sean.
Yes.
were you
I
in
mean, yeah,
college, Mike?
I was my first year of college.
First year of
Wow.
college on Challenger? Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Now my
And
question, Mike,
Yeah.
is did everybody sit around the quad and like watch it like on like some TVs? Because like I know at least in our
we did.
area, Nathan and I, we were probably both watching it. I know I was watching it in a classroom. Like
I was
this
actually living in Florida at the time, so we actually went outside to watch every space shuttle launched.
oh dear
So
Lord.
yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Oh,
it
So
was a
you
little more
watched it,
traumatic in
watched it.
Florida. Yeah.
God.
Wow. No, I was actually listening to the launch on the radio because I was driving to my art class and on campus. And literally, and they cut in and said the special report, the space shuttle Challenger has exploded on liftoff, taking the first school teacher, Kristen McCullough. And it was horrible. It was horrible. And when I walked onto campus, everyone was talking about it. All the TVs and everything was turned to it. It was just like, and they kept on showing the damn explosion over and over again. It was just horrible.
Yeah, I remember after them showing it like 2 or 3 times, my teacher turned it off. She was like, "Okay, we're not watching this anymore." But like, I was like, I was like 8. It was like I was so young when this happened, but it defined that. And I've said this before on many other shows. And if you've never believed this, if you've never gotten into the space program at all, which I've said this a million times, space is one of the most unforgiving environments, if you even want to call it that, in all of creation. The only one that even comes remotely close is deep sea underwater, where you're miles underwater trying to survive in that situation. Both professions that have to take place in those situations, anybody who's in there is an action rock star. Especially when you talk about astronauts, they have to be mentally fit, they have to be physically fit, they have to be able to do, especially back in the 60s when For All Mankind started, long division on slide rules with pencil and paper and figure this stuff out so they don't bounce off of atmospheres. I mean, these are action scientists, people. They are
Oh yeah.
they are the most incredible people.
You were seeing them doing the figures, oh, wait, we got this going on. We've got to make this change. And they ran to the whiteboards to start doing the figuring out and everything. They didn't have computers and stuff. It was interesting, though, when Challenger exploded, there was in Life magazine, there was an article before it happened about how in that year, I think it was 96, and they said this is our year in space. This is when everything changes. 86, sorry. And it was a lot of, I know Ashley wasn't around yet, but it was interesting to see, they had all this timeline of all these different plans that NASA had come up with because they were reinvesting there were supposed to be 20 shuttle launches a year. They were supposed to be building the space station, which they eventually did, but it was a different space station, and it was going to be something looking more like out of 2001. And it was, talking about, doing more moon landings and all this stuff. When the Challenger blew up, that all died right there on the spot and everything. It like froze up. It's like the winds went out of our sails. It was just horrible.
Yeah,
They
it's
killed America's school teacher. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's no way that you can get around that, like, and when you watch For All Mankind, they have similar events where people question, do we belong in space? And in For All Mankind, they always find a way to say yes. And
well, the
that's, again,
competition with the Soviet Union is what's keeping
yes.
it going. It's what's driving it. Is we can't abandon space and let the Soviets have it. So it's
Well, yeah,
like
but
no
I mean,
matter
in the
what
later seasons, though, where it becomes almost like, detente, and they're like, well, we're developing together, and then you have private industry wanting to come in, and you have all these different questions of, is this still worth what we're putting into it? And the answer is always invariably yes. But like, the only other one that I can think of that really strikes me is on a personal level, meaning the actual character, is Molly Cobb. All my
Oh,
money
she
for
was
Molly Cobb.
amazing.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I mean, the woman in real life is like phenomenal, amazing, and is deserving of all the accolades that she ever got. Molly Cobb in For All Mankind is like 5 million times more of just the most badass of badasses. And the real Molly Cobb is like a true phenomenon. That woman
No.
is like amazing. And then they just gave her like they you know what they did? They gave her Captain America super soldier serum. And that's who Molly Cobb is in For All Mankind. I mean, she is
No.
amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean they changed
oh,
it slightly. Her real name is Jerry Cobb, so like they
right,
created a
right, right,
character Molly Cobb, but she's based on Jerry
right.
Cobb, the actual woman.
Right.
But yeah, no, I love Molly. When we get to talking about characters, I will wax eloquently about Molly, but I absolutely love Molly. Possibly my favorite character on the
Seriously.
show. And
Seriously.
it is a show with many good characters, so I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like it's like it's an easy call, but I do
And I
love
loved
Molly.
how they made her literally made her the head of NASA, and she was blind,
Mhm.
because, she heroically, went out during a solar storm and, rescued one of her fellow astronauts and exposed herself to the radiation.
Yep.
So good.
It was so good.
Yeah, honestly, this whole episode could just be all of us going, "It's so good."
I know, like I'm falling in love with it all over again as
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
talking about it and
Well, because the
remembering
thing is,
it.
like, we're all talking about things that we like about the show, and I'm like, I can think of like, a half dozen other good things about the show. So, but Mike, something that we haven't talked about yet that you feel is like a really like good hook for this show.
Well, you got the Bob Newhart show, which is just amazing, you know, and you have like 5 episodes that you watch over and over. Those poor astronauts being stranded on the moon
Mm-hmm.
for that whole time, and it's happened in like submarines and stuff, and people, researchers in Antarctica, and people going crazy because of the isolation. And it's just one of the hooks of the show is just how real everything is for a fantasy series, and how it ties, and the people are real. They're not superhuman. They're not people from the 24th century where all humanity is at its best and everything, like Star Trek. And it's just, these are real people, real emotions. And you get jealousies, you get lust, you get humor, you get happiness, but you also get the horrors. And that's one of the things I love about it. And Ronald D. Moore does an amazing job at that, creating those kind of characters and coming up with it. And, I hope the show, they're at the point with the show now, they're on Mars. They have a established colony there, of functioning colony. And, now they have a asteroid in orbit that's worth more money than God, basically. And it's just amazing to see where they go from here. Are they going to go start exploring the outer planets? Are they going to go to Jupiter? Are they going to go to Saturn, to the moons, which, they might actually run into other life forms or something, or some kind of thing. But I know they've already said that they don't want to do aliens and everything on this and everything. They're trying to keep it low key.
Well, yeah, because that's when we become the Expanse, right?
Well,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing.
Exactly.
It does kind of play in the same wheelhouse. It's like this is just before the Expanse happens, right? Like so.
I mean, you could totally make that argument that this is the
Right,
prequel to the Expanse.
right,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah,
No, no notes.
yeah. No, I have
No.
wondered though, and I do want to save this for a little bit later in the pub. I have wondered once they catch up to where we are in time, like what the show is gonna do. Um, but uh, but
Yeah. The only thing I want to see is, let Ed retire in peace, please. You know, He's like
Put him
in
on a
his
Poor guys,
80s
but
farm
you're
with the
alive.
horse.
Yeah.
It's like his
In a
mummified
Baldwin-
body is going to be flying like a shuttle or something, you know?
Yeah, it's like, can we have a Baldwin just have like a happy ending already? Like, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yes,
the curse,
please.
right? Oh,
I love how they did though in, instead of Oklahoma City, they did the explosion at NASA instead.
Mhm.
And, I thought that was brilliant, and how they, and there was just so much tying into what happened in our reality happening in theirs, but just slightly different and everything. And, and poor Karen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what you were talking
That was
about
a
with
shocker.
Uh-huh.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, like what you were talking about, Mike, with this show doesn't pull its punches.
No,
Because,
not at all.
there's that yeah, I mean, they let the show go dark without the show. It's like the show doesn't become a dark show, like we've all seen the shows where it's just like, oh my God, this is a slog because everything is depressing and down. And it's like, I can't take this. But this show allows itself to, go across the whole spectrum of human emotion. So it's not also like a bright, happy, show either. It allows us to see that, yeah, overall, because they are taking the risks, overall, it does seem to be good for humankind. So there's hope in that sense, and it's sort of like a global for humankind sense. But we see the tragedies, we see the dark events, we see the bad stuff that happens, and I feel like that gives you more payoff with the hope. Like, there are shows that it's like they try to be bright, happy shows, but I feel like they come off as kind of like, goofy, because it's always bright, happy, and they never let things go too dark. But I feel like if you allow your audience to go to a dark place and then like you swing back to something better, you have the catharsis, right? And so like as an audience member, you feel like more elated and more excited about the things coming out of that, because you see that, hey, like I mean, spoiler again, spoiler warning. Molly died going into NASA and like rescuing people despite being blind, because she knew those hallways so well and everything. And she was going into that smoke and getting people out. But Molly died. That's awful. I love Molly. I can't stand that she died. But she was a hero and she saved all those people. Like that's like an amazing thing. Like I think they said she saved like 23 people, or say it was 20 something or something. I think they said that she saved. So it's like,
yeah, it was a huge number. It was a massive number of people.
Yeah, it was a lot of people.
But then you also look at what happened with Gordo and Tracy, on the moon. And
can
God.
we not talk about that? Because that still hurts, man.
Oh yeah,
I really thought
cry.
they were getting them back together. I was like, they're gonna get into a good place now, and it's gonna be okay. They're gonna save each other, and they're gonna get back together. It's like, oh no, they're both dead.
No, their organs ruptured. They died.
Right. Even though they got back into the airlock and they sealed it, and I was like, good, safe. No, not safe.
No,
they died.
no. I wanted to go.
Sorry, I don't care how.
Yeah,
I don't care how optimistic you are, but duct tape does not save you from just explosive
That's exactly
decompression.
where I was going with that, Sean. That's exactly where I was going, and it was like,
if you're bleeding out your eyeballs, you got really big problems.
Yeah, it's like the MythBusters. I had to show them, duct tape doesn't do everything, Yeah, exactly.
But it did buy them probably an extra 30 seconds, which is impressive for duct tape. I mean,
right.
It held together a human body that was explosively decompressing the entire time. It was, I mean, oh my God, like just, yeah. Oh, anyways, we're going to start talking about characters. I'm going to shut up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's
there was
talk.
They don't pull the punches on death in this, like some very gruesome death, like when they were doing the space race to Mars, and the Russian ship broke down, and the American astronauts went out to try to, like tether them up, and the tether was breaking, and the ships collided, and the astronauts who were outside got rolled over on the ships, or the astronauts that, when they're trying to fix the engine and the engine turns on, and they're still back there. It's just,
and one guy gets vaporized by it.
Oh, literally.
That scream that starts
just falls right
off.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, so I do have one question though before we start talking about characters. Does anyone else, because like the one thing that niggled at me throughout season 4 is Danny's off-screen death feels like now the creators have said like, oh, there's nothing weird about this, like but they haven't really said
Mm.
what happened there because it felt like they were setting something up with Danny at the end of season 3, and then we come into season 4 and it's like, oh no, Danny died off-screen. What are you talking about? Nothing. Like, does anyone else feel weird about that? That like, like that felt unnatural and like that you feel
Well,
like
it's
something
interesting.
happened behind the scenes that, they changed some plans.
I don't know if they changed plans or not because they did flashbacks with him in it, showing, that he got put into the, was it the Chinese capsule
Yeah,
or
the Korean.
Korean
capsule.
capsule?
Korean
Yeah,
capsule, yeah.
the Korean capsule as a punishment for what he did because he almost sabotaged the whole Mars mission.
Mm.
And,
He
with his
caused the
drug,
death of 3 astronauts.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
He was
And
tripping.
well, exactly, because he couldn't handle anything. He couldn't handle his marriage. He couldn't handle,
But the
yeah.
flashes they showed in season 4 were like 5-second little flashes, and I still think that like they filmed that during season 3 because they showed him putting the capsule at the end of season 3, and I'm like they
Mhm.
just took some footage that they didn't use in season 3 and are using that as flashbacks. I don't know if something happened with the actor or
Maybe so the
something and they
actor,
fired
yeah.
him, or I
Yeah.
just feel that just felt wrong
It
to me
does
that he
feel
wasn't in
abrupt.
season 4.
Yeah, I wasn't happy with the way they ended that such an important character, the
I
Stevens
think
family. Like it
I
is
think
important.
I think the thing we're dancing around is the only cathartic, real, like closing of that story is Ed just putting a bullet in his brain. I mean,
Oh
this
yeah.
this was like the closest we got to it without Ed just outright executing him. And let's not mince words here. He still executed Danny. Danny still
Yeah.
died, brokenhearted in a gulag. I mean, how big was that shuttle? That little
Oh, it
pod
was
that they were in?
tiny. It was like being in a coffin.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they basically buried him alive on Mars, and it was a slow death.
Yeah.
And I
Who
think
would
they just
think
didn't want
putting
to
someone
linger
in
on
a
that.
coffin for like 180 days would like, lead to them to commit suicide?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just didn't want to. I think they just didn't want to linger on that, but they wanted to say, yeah, Ed's actions led to his death, but we're not going to linger too much on that part of it because the guilt is where we want that to come up. We don't want to go back and cut to the actor like, okay, we're bringing you back for season 4, but you're just going to basically be on this little tiny set. We're just going to show you slowly dying and then decide to commit suicide. Like just, ugh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know. I
Yeah.
feel like I felt like they had more plans for Danny, not for him to die originally, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I just felt like it felt unnatural to me. And it was the only thing that so far I've had any kind of an issue with that's happened on the show.
You just want to see Ed get his Rick Flag Jr. on. That's all.
And then John Cena comes in and shoots him. Or
Yes. All right, so Nate, who would you say is your favorite character on the show?
My favorite character I like watching because we watch them grow so much would be Aleda, engineer
Mm-hmm.
with the immigrant father. But honestly, the one I relate to the most as a middle-aged man and father is Ed Baldwin.
Okay, pick one.
I'm going to go Ed Baldwin. I'll go
Okay.
Ed Baldwin. I mean, he's a great. Joel Kinnaman is amazing, and I've been a Joel Kinnaman stan for a long time, and but him being that kind of guy who grew up in he's that old guy that you would say, well, he grew up in a different time, racist, misogynistic, bigoted, sexist. Like he grew up in a different time is all you can say about the guy, and he struggles and he does grow, and every opportunity Ed has to be a good father, he's a father, even to his adopted, to his real kid that dies. His adopted daughter, he's not always great too, and he kind of
He's much better with Kelly.
He is better with Kelly, but he's really dad to Danny.
Oh, it was
Danny wasn't a great son, but he does not offer good advice, and just yelling at a drug addict to say man up, it didn't work with Gordo, so it wasn't going to work with Danny, and he didn't learn that lesson. And I really Danny's situation at the end and how he died, I feel is Ed's fault. Ed didn't learn his lesson from Gordo because he's stubborn. But
that was so
military.
But
I feel
though.
it because,
that was so military.
Oh yeah, that was but it's he grew up in a certain time, defense. You know, where it just goes back to he grew up at a certain time.
Yeah, no, he grew up in a time when they didn't believe in mental illness. Mental illness isn't a thing.
It was just something you just got over it. You just sucked it up, rub some dirt on it, drink some water, you'll be okay. and I feel that as a middle-aged dad now, and I worry about being that kind of dad and being a bad dad and all those insecurities I see played out in a blown out version with Ed Baldwin. But that's I relate the most to Ed Baldwin.
Yeah, I gotta say, Beth and I were both really worried in the first few episodes because just his demeanor when he's at home, we're like, is this man like an abuser? Like,
he was
because the way that like,
well, I mean, maybe
psychologically, but I mean, I thought we were gonna see him like just like beating his wife or like or his son or whatever, like right, like because he just seemed so stern and they seemed so scared of him that I was like, this is not like a good. No, but I mean, yeah. So yes, I mean, I think that it is like emotionally, abusive, which he wouldn't have seen as because like they didn't understand like the effect they were having on people. I think there wasn't the awareness. I think in the 60s about like, because again, they were taught by their parents that that's the thing. You're stern, you tell your kid to do what they got to do. You don't ever show affection. If you have a boy kid, you don't ever show affection as a father. That's one of the things, and all that kind of stuff, which sort of instills that then in the next generation to be the same way. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad we showed him as a more nuanced person as the show went on, because I thought
it was complex character.
Right.
He still had faults. He wasn't become perfect by the 90s or the 2000s. And he still was stubborn and was wrong a lot, but was still a good man, was still an amazing pilot, still a great leader. So he was a complex guy. And just like all of our heroes, they were to quote another show, to quote some sort of a son of a bitch, they were all that way. Even Gordo and Stacy, they weren't, the American heroes that they were portrayed to be in real life. But they were complex. All these characters are very complex, and Ed's had a lot of complex arcs.
Yeah. I totally feel like if you don't have to dig very far into the histories of the real life NASA astronauts to probably find many examples of that too, of, were heroes, but also had their flaws and faults. So I feel like just all the layers they add to the characters just make them feel really real. Like these could have been real historical people who were living a real life and making real decisions.
Well, when you see the same thing, like, yeah, his attitude is like, Gordo, just suck it up. But when you see when they're actually in space and Gordo can't handle it, he's very much like, I will cover for, so it's like, he's not like an evil person that wants to be hurtful. He's like, I'll cover this up, like, but but he doesn't understand. Like, again, I think it's just a thing. People weren't very well educated about like mental health and whatnot, and so he thinks that just by being stern, you can just shock somebody, into like, just do what you're supposed to do, And with some people, that the reason why that happens is because for some people that does work. But not for people who have actual like real like deep seated mental illness, and so like that's the thing, and they just didn't understand that there isn't a one size fits all, for all people that you can just use to get things to happen a certain way. So he's become more of a jerk, I feel like, as the seasons have progressed, as he's gotten more set in his
Oh,
ways. But
this last season, I wanted to slap him
season
so
4,
many
he was
times.
not great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to slap him so many times in that season. And
Like,
you know, he
when
was,
did Ed ever care about unions? Like,
yeah,
oh, that was just no. He didn't care about the union. He was saying
Yeah,
he
I
cared
know.
about the union so that he could get what he wants. Like that's the
which was
he-
was to be command again. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
And I think we're seeing somebody who very clearly was a person who was, he's part of the right stuff generation. They had to be perfect. They had to be able to do this stuff, and everything else came after the mission. And so you're watching a man who has been for his entire career a person who had to be the right thing at the right time. And now we're seeing it where the new generations are picking up, and the younger, hipper, more clear-headed, level-headed, and rational people are coming in, and Ed's like, well, this has worked this way for 40 years, Pilgrim. I don't think we need to change anything about anything.
It's always been this way. Watch it. I get this at work too, where it's like
Yeah,
that's
it's
the way we've
always been
always
like
done
that.
it.
Yeah, and it just doesn't fly. It does not fly. Eventually, you have to adapt, or you have to step aside for the next generation. And if they don't do this in season 5 with Ed now picking up even more age, I mean, he's going to be an 85-year-old man in space before the show ends if they don't do something
Oh,
about
he's
it.
going to be the Emperor of Mars next season.
Seriously,
Like,
right? He's
I'm
going to
Ed
be
the
walking around in a
First.
red hood and cloak, and he's just going to start talking like Emperor Palpatine, like, no, we will never talk to Earth. Like, dear Lord, let Ed retire.
You know, I was really hoping, and this could be subtext because we don't know. Maybe this is what's actually happening, but he doesn't say it. Nobody says this. I was really hoping the explanation was going to be that Ed just can't bear going to an Earth that doesn't have Karen, and that as long as he stays in space, like he can imagine that Karen is still there on Earth, even though he knows that's not real. And I was like, that would actually give it out for Ed's behavior. That, yeah, it might still be awful. Like, what the things he's doing are awful, but at least that would make me feel for him a lot more. That it's just how he can't stand the thought of Karen not being there if he returns to Earth. That I would feel a lot more sympathy. But yeah, we never go there. So I don't
But I
think
think
that
I'm
that's.
with Nate on this one. I think I'd rather them not make that the explanation because that takes away part of his nuance,
Hmm.
which is the man was in the 60s, but he had his good traits. He was in the 70s, but he had his good traits. Now his good traits are diminishing because he's getting older and he's getting more stuck in his ways. But I think that at a certain point, and I hate to quote it, but it's a really good quote. You either die the hero or you live yours long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing happening with Ed is that he's lived too long as a person who has basically had almost unparalleled power when it comes to space,
Mhm.
and he doesn't know how to let go. And I think that that's a completely fair thing to present for him and not give any ulterior motives or explanations. I think that that's an honest portrayal of a man who is in his 60s now.
Mhm.
And I mean, he's in his 60s, people, in the story. It's like, come on.
He's older. He's older than that, dude.
Yeah, I think he's in his
He's
70s.
70s.
Is he 70
He's in
now?
his 70s. Yeah, he's in his
Oh my
70s.
God, like-
It's 73, 74, something like that.
Yeah,
And because he's Ed Baldwin, no one can fire him. Like, nobody feels right about firing him, even though, of course, he's in 70s. He shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Because the show, when it starts in 1969, he's probably in his late 20s, early 30s at that point.
Yeah.
And then that's another
40 years.
40 years. So you're looking, he's in his mid 70s, and it's
in my brain he's like in his mid 60s for some reason because and I always look at this and I still hold by this, which is that as we've gotten more sophisticated society, we do not get city miles as quickly. But if you go back to the 60s with everybody hard drinking and heavy smoking and whatnot, like an early 20-something right stuff candidate, they looked rough. They already looked like they were in their 30s. So I always credit Ed as being younger than what he probably was. And I don't know, how old was Ed Baldwin when he did Apollo 10? Does anybody want to Google?
I will right now.
They were probably around the same age.
Because if we know, we
They
can
were contemporaries.
A year or two.
While you're looking that up, I just want to throw in there. I love how this show, just talking about characters in general, mixes in real characters, made up characters, and then fictionalized, made up versions of real people. And it's just like, it
Yeah,
merges two people
pastiche.
together, or it pulls them apart. And I have to Google, like, every time a new character is like, does this a real person? Did this person exist? Like, every time. And you're always just like going down the rabbit holes looking up.
All right. According to, the internet, which is everything is true on the internet, of course. In 1969, Ed Baldwin would have been around 40 years old, assuming he was born around 1929. And in the show, it's suggested by his background as a Korean war pilot and an Annapolis graduate.
Okay, so that
He
means
would
that
have
if we're all the way
graduated
to-
to Annapolis prior to Korea, or the
so
year.
that means that
that
if we get all
happened.
the way up to 2009, which is approximately where we're at, then that means he's right at 70 then.
Right at 80.
80.
It would be 80 once we get to 2000. So he's in his 70s because this wasn't quite this was like, I thought 2004, I think, this season.
2004, but still 2004 from 19. All right, say 1970
Really
to
75.
2000. Yeah, he's in his late 70s at that point.
Wild. Seriously,
Yeah.
let Ed go home or make
Yeah, I
Ed
mean, we
go
see
home.
him taking the testosterone injections, so he's taking testosterone injections to, like, keep himself, like, stronger, more fit, that kind of stuff. We've seen that. So
Yeah. I think we're gonna have to leave that alone though. We're never going to finish the show though.
right, yeah. All right, Ashley, who's a character you would like us to talk about?
Let's see. Well, I mean, like others have said, it's so hard to narrow down to just one. I mean, Molly Cobb is great. Who doesn't love her? But a personal character that really stood out to me was Chris Marshall as Danielle Poole.
She's awesome. She is awesome.
I really loved seeing, because this is an alternate history, that they were able to bring female astronauts into the NASA program, and just thinking back to my own childhood, like how much that would have meant to me if there had actually been like women folded into the space program from the early days, and getting to see like women fly these spacecraft command missions. That would have been so cool, which unfortunately did not happen in real life, but I love that there's so many great female characters. And I just love Danielle. I think she's great at being cool under pressure, but she's also compassionate and cares about people. I think she's able to hold both those in tandem. I like her friendship with Ed, even though Ed doesn't really always treat her the best, especially in the last season. But I like that they're able to form a sense of camaraderie, and it was just great to see her grow and become a leader, and is kind of a great example of a what if the space program had been more open and included more people, maybe how much farther it could have gone. But I just really like her character and seeing her journey throughout the season. I think she's great.
Fun fact about that actress, Chris Marshall, the actress who plays Danny Poole, she was only supposed to be on for 3 episodes.
Whoa.
Really?
That is a testament to her, obviously, amazing performance, right? They continued her character. And also just like her as a person, the actress, being so great to work with. They're like, we got to keep her around.
Oh, well, that's great call on their part. I can't
Yeah.
imagine the show.
I was watching an interview
without
with the
her.
cast today, and Joel was like, I got contracted for 2 seasons, option for 5 seasons. And she's like, that must have been nice. I was contracted for 3 episodes.
Man, well, I'm glad they did the right thing, made the right call, and put her in as a series regular, because I think she's
I love how
a
they
real-
took all 4 of those women astronauts, and they all had exceptional careers.
Yes. Yeah, and very
You know.
unique and kind of tailored to their own personalities.
One even became
And-
president.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Alan.
gotta say 2 things that I want to say about Danny. First of all, I found it confusing. We had 2 characters named Danny.
This is
usually
true.
context told you which one, but I was like, why do you have 2 characters named Danny? Like,
Yes.
You know what, Nathan? I will say it again. Subcaptions always solve this problems. One was spelled D-A-N-I, and the other one was D-A-N-N-Y, and you made it.
Apple is weird for me. For whatever reason, it'll do captions for like part of an episode and then just stop doing them. And there's no way for me to turn them back on without going out and going back in. I don't know what it is and how it talks to my TV. It's the only app on my TV that does that. Like all the other ones work just fine, but subtitles on Apple Plus I have a problem with.
You know what? I bet Apple and For All Mankind didn't have that problem.
Probably.
They had
Probably.
that fixed.
They had that glitch fixed for you, bro. They fixed
Yep. Just in the wrong timeline.
that. Just in the
But
wrong
one of the
timeline, buddy.
one of the things I like about Danny is because Danny very easily could have been our after school special of the series, as far as, so that she could stand
Okay.
up there and say, like, look at me, I'm a black woman and I'm doing this. And they made it so much more nuanced because are there things that could be interpreted as either racism or sexism that are applied against Danny? Yes.
Oh yes, big time.
But I mean, there are times where she's also very sensitive, right? Where it's not clear that that's what actually happened. But she sees it that way. And so that's important. And I like the fact that the show is nuanced in that way of showing that, because a particular group is treated a certain way for a certain time, it is natural to become sensitive and feel like I didn't get this job because I'm a woman or because I'm black or whatever. And I like the fact that the show has those discussions, but they feel real. It's another thing that I feel like was very real about the show, not in a way where somebody's standing on their, with their hands on their hips saying, now audience, here's the lesson that you need to get. Because I always hate that, because it's like, even if I agree with the message you're trying to say, I hate when like it's like super overt like that. Whereas this is like, this just feels like real human interactions. And we've all been there, right? Where we feel like because of something, somebody has unfairly judged us,
Well,
and
it's interesting though with Danny's character, and a lot of people don't remember this though, but in the second season, she made the ultimate sacrifice when she broke her arm on the moon
Yeah.
to save Gordo. And and so she literally, and she they were able to then use the emergency rocket to go back to Earth, and it saved basically Gordo's sanity. And because he was going to try to go out into the moon without a thing, which he ended up doing anyway, but that's a whole different story.
different context though.
Yes.
But it's interesting though, because her and Ed, we're talking about it, and she said, I'm willing to make that sacrifice for him. And and Ed, are you able to stay here for another 3 months by yourself? And that's when, the whole thing with the Russians and everything. But it was interesting when, she did it. When she went back to Earth, she was shamed for it. She was almost demoted for it. But she made the ultimate sacrifice, and she was able to rise above it. She was the handshake in orbit with the Russians. She, then became the commander of the of the Mars base and everything. And it was just awesome.
Yeah,
she was almost the first American on Mars. Almost.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the fact that she's able to call Ed on his crap because of the fact that they shared that experience and he knows what she's made. Like, he can't attribute things to her because it's like he knows who she is. He knows her strength at breaking her own arm to save face for somebody else. And so they can have those arguments, but Ed has to respect her, and I like the fact that she's somebody that Ed just can't not respect because of who she is and what they've and what they've shared together. So again, I feel like these are really real things. Like, Ed can be as pig-headed as he wants to be, but there's certain there's certain things that where even he has to acknowledge some people because of this what they've shared. Mike, who's somebody else that you would like us to talk about?
Oh, well, we haven't actually even really talked about, of course, our one favorite person, Margot. Margot is such an amazing character. She was, not a disciple, or whatever you want to call it.
What is thy
Von
bidding,
Braun.
my master?
Well, exactly. Well, von Braun, and she was, his protege, and a lot of, and she was, the young spunky kid in 1969 who was working on all the different calculations and everything and sleeping in her office at NASA. And, she rose her way up through the ranks and became the,
Got a bedroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually, she got her
Literally
own bedroom
lived at NASA.
office.
Her own
Yeah.
house.
She never left. She never had a house.
She never had a house. Exactly. She had the sleep sofa. And it was just, it literally was, that was her life. And, she secretly, was in bed with the Russians. At first she didn't even realize she was. And it was just really sad what happened to her. And, in a lot of ways, she was, the heartbeat of NASA. And, when it was found out that she's the one who was leaking secrets to them, and, they had to fake her death. And that was pretty amazing that they, and it all tied into the explosion at NASA. And
Well, and then the
was
worst
because
part is
she did that.
she thought Sergei wasn't getting out of the Soviet Union, so she defected thinking that she could be with Sergei, only to find out that as she's already agreed to defect, that they are pulling Sergei out of the Soviet Union, and so they still miss each other. It's
They just do
like,
flippy flops, yeah. But because she was helping the Russians with their space program, and the Russians were helping her too. She got some information, not really classified stuff, but some help. It's what kept the U.S. and Russia competitive, which further propelled the space program. So,
well, and that's the thing that I wanted to say. The true tragedy of Margot is that for all that Werner von Braun was vilified and that she even grew to hate him, after all that stuff came out, is she made the same mistake. She prioritized the science over the morality of what she was doing. Aleda is completely right to be like, you gave away my designs. That wasn't her right to do that. Beyond treason, which is its own problem, that's Aleda's, and she gave it away.
Aleda's hard work. Yeah.
Right. Aleda's hard work was just given away. So, so Margot ends up being vilified, also because, even despite everything that happens there.
Right. But rightly so, she was.
Right.
And everything.
Right, because she prioritized the science.
I do love that you put Aleda's betrayal above treason. You're like,
it's
yeah,
more
okay,
personal.
It's treason, but.
Well, I'm saying it's more
this
personal
is America,
connection.
2025,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no, I mean, you're not wrong. Also, I thought it was interesting that, when you look at Margot's entire trajectory, you see that she's a woman who will do anything to make sure that she gets the science done in the way it needs to be done. And a person who is that single-minded is bound to make mistakes on a moral level, but also from an objectively correct level. And she made early mistakes, but they were mistakes that she could then work through because she had mentors, she had people that were there with her. But as she became more and more, just kind of like Ed, as she became more and more powerful inside of the NASA hierarchy, her mistakes became more and more pronounced. And of course, by the time you get to the point where she defects, that is maybe one of the coolest moments of the entire show, is where she wakes up and they show that she's alive, and then she opens up that window and she's like in Mother Russia. And we're not talking like, oh, this is the nice part of Mother Russia. No, she's like in Minsk. Okay, like Worf from Deep Space Nine is like down the road from her right now. I mean, it's bad. Like she's in frozen hell Minsk.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck is going on? And
I did love that episode where they featured, when she was in the city and everything, and when she was in Russia, and they wouldn't let her into the space program at first.
Oh yeah, and she'd already been there for 10 years at that point, and they just treated her as just like, you're just some asset, and we
value.
No value.
Yeah,
it was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also what makes her character so compelling, is that she's still trying to get back into space, as far as she just needs to use her mind. Okay, fine, I'm working for the Russians now, then let me work. Don't just put me in a hole and just let me, go get my bread and my, talk to the lady who's feeding the pigeons, who's clearly sitting there to, keep an eye on me, it's so painful to watch her go through that. But at the same time, it is her penance. So she loses a decade of science and her ability before she's even given the slightest whiff of opportunity. Um, and honestly,
I'm,
like if this ever becomes like one of those moments where I hope it doesn't, but if it ever becomes like some kind of weird James Cameron or Michael Bay kind of ending where like, okay, things are going to blow up, it better be Margot blowing up like the Russian like NASA is all I'm saying, right? Like like Roscosmos better blow up because of Margot is all I'm saying.
I'm looking forward to in season 5 seeing the Margot wake up routine in her jail cell. Right, because
Yeah.
every season we get a Margot wake up scene,
I thought,
her morning routine. I want to
Right,
see
right.
Margot's routine in the jail cell. She stretches her back. She puts on her prison uniform. All of that.
I'm like a romantic sucker or something because I thought for sure, now that Margot's back in the Soviet space program, they're letting her go to the US as part of this thing that they're doing. She and Sergey are finally gonna get together. They're old now, but they're finally gonna get
Hmm.
together somehow, and they're gonna
And
finally
they'll
be
get to
happy.
hold hands.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's like, no, no, we're just gonna murder Sergey. And it's just like, no, come
So,
on.
so brutal sometimes.
Just, poor Margot. She was kissed one time in her life, and that's it.
Mhm.
Like nothing beyond that ever. Oh, it's sad. Um, but but again, I like the fact that they let these characters' flaws also like cause consequences. And I mean, I know that's
Mhm.
something Sean and I talk about with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, also Ronald D. Moore.
Yep.
That one of the things we love is consequence and allowing consequences to play out, and that's what this show does. And it's like, yeah, Margot was all about the science, and she turned a blind eye to anything that was this is shady, it's not good, and she reaped the consequences from that. So,
Also, I like
um,
the fact that the actress who plays Margot is from South Carolina. I think that's kind
I
of a funny little side note. I
Oh,
think
did
she's
not
from
know
like,
that.
yeah, I think she's from like Spartanburg or something like that. But yeah,
No.
she's from South Carolina, so I thought that was kind of funny. Which is because in the first episode when like she starts talking, I'm like, that's a South Carolinian Southern accent if I've ever heard one. And yeah, she can't shake it. Like it's part of her DNA.
She can't even hide it. Not at all. And it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
So, Sean, do you want to expound upon your Molly love, or do you want to talk about somebody else?
No, no, Molly. I mean, Molly, I have stated I planted my flag on Molly, pretty much as soon as I had a chance. I'm like, no, Molly Cobb, man. Like the fact that she is the Ed Baldwin of the female astronaut corps, that
Mm.
first group where like she is the best of the best of their ilk. She's the one who figures out how to use the rover. She's the one who, just goes through and will not quit. And I love that about her character to the point where like she's so far ahead of the curve when it comes to the other women who are performing, and these are women who are just crushing their goals, and then here's
Mhm.
Molly just walking in and she's making it look easy, and that's what made her so much fun because she's one of those people that absolutely if one of her folks fall down on the moon and is about to just get pelted by radiation, is Molly going to hesitate to go out there and save that person's life? No, she's not. Like an idiot, she's going to go out there and get dosed with like 5 times the amount of freaking gamma radiation you're supposed to be and turn into the Incredible Hulk on the damn moon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's just what she's going to do.
To be fair, she had smoked enough cigarettes, so it's probably the same effect. Like,
Yeah, right, probably, right,
Yeah.
right. But I mean, it was just so freaking crazy to watch this woman who just would not stop. She was she was a freight train of willpower.
yes.
And that's what I loved about her character is even when she's blind and half of NASA is falling down around her head, she's like, I don't need to see debris to avoid it. I'm going to go save people. What?
Mhm.
So of course
And
she
she was
died.
so calm.
Oh, she's so awesome.
She was so calm during that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. Like Molly is, typically the role of a man, right? And I mean, I know that you compared her to Ed, but in some ways she's better than Ed because,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
definitely.
she's just like she is bullheaded and she is like it's just my way or the highway, which, is kind of like Ed, but I feel like she's very above board that it's going to be that way. She doesn't play any games at all, and it's just like this is what I'm going to do, and that's just the way that it's going to be. And I absolutely love that. She's courageous, she's strong, she's smart. like they're like taking their test, it's all the women taking the test and whatnot, and she's just
Right,
like,
right, right.
this is the answer, and everything. And I love it. And I thought for sure they were going to go for the, easy like representation thing, and it's gonna be like, oh, because she's kind of like, butch and everything. It's like this is gonna be their LGBTQ, identification figure. And I really love the fact that they made that Ellen instead,
Yeah,
who was more of a girly girl,
right.
and that they had Molly's, because they even have the scene with her, like she's in the bathtub and she's like, they probably all think I'm gay. And then they pan out and her husband's in the tub with her. Like,
Right.
I love this because, Beth and I always hate like the simple thing of, oh, the tomboy has to be gay,
Right.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so it's like, no, there are plenty of tomboys, they like things that are typically male, but they are also heterosexual, and so I love that
Mhm.
that's the way that they went with that. So
Yeah, and I also love that she was a hippie. Like, I
yeah,
say like how much she was like Ed, but like in all the ways that Ed isn't, Molly is. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like,
Hmm.
like she would actually listen to her people and she would like, talk to them and whatnot. But she had that same demeanor of this has to get done. We're going to make it get done, and
Hmm.
it's going to happen. But she's also a hippie. And clearly her husband's very much a hippie,
Right.
and like she has her paintings and stuff. And Molly was just such a well-rounded, interesting character because you knew who she was from the get. The get. Oh, there went my southern accent for a second there. From
Yeah.
the get, and then you just see like this person progress, and it's not so much that she changed a whole lot during her time on the show. It's that they kept peeling away the privacy that she kept so secure around
Hmm.
herself. And the more we peeled away her privacy, the much more interesting she became. And I really feel like that was what made her such an intriguing character, was that you never knew where the next peel was going to reveal. You never knew what it was going to be. It was going to be something interesting. And yeah, Molly was just awesome. There's a reason why her name's on the side of the building now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, there's a reason why it's the Molly Cobb Space Station Center. It's freaking amazing. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, the only thing that made her like really similar to Ed as far as the tragedy is that she couldn't see that like times were changing as the space
Oh, she
program
couldn't
became
see.
more. Well,
Right?
oh, okay, all right, all right. I
But a
didn't
bum bum
intend for
bum.
that. All right, but that times were changing, and that as the space program became more standard, they didn't need the like you just gotta feel things with your gut kind of mentality, and that it really was
Mhm.
like Margot is right there. Like as it becomes more standard, it really needs to be more about the science and about that kind of stuff because it's not as risky a venture as it used
Yeah,
to be.
you don't need the hot rodders anymore. You need the
Right.
people who could just do the work. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean they're right. I mean, going back to the whole Challenger conversation for a second, I mean that was the beginning of us basically treating space travel as something that could be done like on vacation. Like that was the proof of concept there, was that we were going to make space something that was going to become so common that we could all experience space. And that's where Margot was going with that. She was like, we don't need hot rodders. We don't need people who fly by the seat of their pants. Seat of the pants science is not needed anymore. We need hard practical science at all times. And Molly disagreed, but Margot was right. Margot was 100% right on that one.
Yeah. There's still so many good characters, but I guess for mine, I'm going to go with Kelly. And I'm going to take Kelly because Kelly was a character that I expected to kind of go one way, and they kind of went a different way with her. And I really like that she really was all about the science, but with a backing in the fact that she. Oh, let me back up a little bit more. There's a lot of things I like about Kelly. One thing is I really like that Ed and Karen never treated her different, right? Like she is their daughter. And
Mhm.
except when she starts asking questions about, like where she came from, they in all times there is no distinction between, her as an adopted daughter and, their son that they had, right? So like they just refer this is my daughter, like that's all that it
Mhm.
is. And so I really loved that. I I I felt sympathy for her when she does try to explore like her heritage and where she comes from, and she realizes that this is just like so foreign to me that like there's nothing, here that I can go with. But I really love the fact of how science focused she is while still like maintaining her humanity. Because in some ways, like Margot's given up her humanity, partially because of the fact that she was the smartest person in the room for so long that a lot of the men of that time were intimidated by her. And so like she never formed like romantic connections. And then at the same time, there weren't many women who were her peers intellectually. And so that's why like Margot, I think, became kind of the person that she is. But, like Kelly remains a very family oriented character who cares very much about like, her connections while also being very much into science. So to her, she has nothing to prove it. After, she goes into space. She goes into space and she but she comes back and she's fine with I'm just gonna just be on a research station. Like I don't need to do all of this other stuff. And so, she has this whole career and everything. And then she ends up going back into space and there's other things, that happen that, every time I think I'm out, I'm going back in. But, it's but I like the fact that to her it's like the connections are more important to her than just like, the sort of I don't know what we'd call it, but like how Ed is. I've got to be in space, and that's going to be my thing. And even Molly, until she didn't have her sight anymore, that was her, sort of attitude. And so I like Kelly as a character, and I like where they're going with Kelly. I like her humanity, and I think she helps, sort of ground Ed a little bit. One of those few characters, Danny and Kelly, I think are the only people that can at all like bring Ed back from the brink anymore, because of their connections to him. So
Yeah, the Baldwins just have they have space madness.
yeah.
They got to be in space, like they really do. But I also like the fact that Kelly had this really great. She in my mind is the most American character on that show because I've always felt America is a melting pot, and people who feel like we belong here because we just were born here versus somebody who came here had to understand where they were coming from, had to kind of build an identity, see where their roots are, and then say, "That's not me. I'm American." And that she's so utterly American in that moment where she's like, "This is my family. We have spaghetti night." But by the way, always remember R.I.P. spaghetti night, right? Um, and you have this woman who she has no family except for the maid family that was given to her, and it grows because all of her aunts and uncles are astronauts. Of course this woman is going to space, and she's going to be like the most awesome Mark Watney type of space botanist that you can freaking imagine. I mean, seriously, she's on Mars and she's a botanist. Like Mars should be like trembling in his pants, like like,
But
she's
then, of course,
amazing.
a Baldwin has the first child born in space, also,
Of
too,
course,
right?
a Baldwin has
Yes,
to have the first
yes.
That's
child
the
in space.
generational stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Space baby.
And in fact, like because he was born in space, he actually is healthier in space,
Right.
also, which is yeah.
Yeah, no, the being healthier in space thing was actually a really cool thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was a really cool little story beat that they did.
Interesting.
Yeah, scientists actually think that might actually happen. Like if we start having children in space, that those children won't be able to come back to Earth, necessarily because, being born in lower or no gravity and stuff like that. So, that's actually them bringing in some real science into the.
So now we're back to the expanse then, right? So now
Right.
we have belters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so
he's the
that's
first
right. So
belter.
he's the first belter. That's what he is. Oh, see, it's coming together so nicely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Nate mentioned Aleda before, and Aleda's another great character for talking about that same American sort of story.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Very good story.
Yeah, because and somebody whose family was taken away, she just happened to be out when the ice raided their place that they were living, and so basically had to like live on her own for years, and thankfully Margot remembered her, and after the boyfriend contacted her and like gave her a job and everything, but it's like she lived this harsh life, and somebody who was brilliant. So he was brilliant who wouldn't have been allowed to contribute except for like the extremely fortunate like confluence of events that allowed her to get a job that then allowed her to demonstrate like what she's able to contribute. And I'm glad that they allowed Aleda to grow though, because at first when she had such a even though the chip on her shoulder was understandable, because Margot, again, not caring about the human element, was
Right,
just
right.
like whatever, like when she was like, I have nowhere to go. But that I'm glad that she was able to grow within that environment and form friendships and get beyond those things. But I think it was good that they showcased that also within the show, and how circumstances for immigrants can be very bad and very dark like that, and to highlight that people who can contribute aren't being allowed to do so because of these circumstances, which is I think a
And
side of it that a lot of people don't think about,
yeah,
as far as
and
like
I also like that Aleda didn't get defined by her pyromania, which was that
right.
little. No, I'm serious. Like that
Yeah.
was something where I thought that they were going to bring that back sometime in a later season, and she was going to like set fire to like the master control room or something. Like I was waiting for that, but she turned her love of fire into I'm going to make rockets go into space, which I thought was such a great what's the word I'm thinking of, funneling application of this particular.
Channeling.
Thank you. She was channeling this particular quirk into something that was incredibly useful, and it obviously served her well. I love that. I can't really bring it back to Kelly with botany, but
No, it's
imagine
fine. I kind of moved
yeah,
beyond and just said Leda was mentioned, so we should probably just spend a few minutes talking about her too,
it's true.
because
No, Aleda's a great character. I mean, Aleda's awesome. In fact, I was actually mad that it took so long to get Aleda to be one of the main characters because she had to grow up first, and I was like, no,
right.
I want to see more of this little
Yeah.
girl.
Well, I
Yeah,
love the scenes when she realized Margot was still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
She comes
just
out of the shower and yeah,
exactly.
mixed
And it was
emotions.
oh God, yes. It was just like, you betrayed us, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and at first she wanted to hug her friend, but then reality hit. And it was just awesome. It was just great.
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
really.
after everything, Margot was her mentor. Margot was her surrogate mom. They used to have Margot over, like every week for dinner, and everything. And then she knew that Margot must have given away the secrets. Yeah, after she thought Margot did it, she was like, you were dead. So, like I had to just sort of justify it in my head. And it's like, she didn't even die. And so then it's like all the anger, giving away the designs, comes out. So I thought that was really real also, because yeah, I mean that is a betrayal, there. And so yeah, I I
100%.
I felt
Yeah.
for her in that. But yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this show. I mean, if somebody's listening to this and you haven't seen For All Mankind, if we haven't sold it yet, I don't think that we're going to.
Mhm.
Please just go watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please watch it. And we haven't even talked about all the great like science fiction stuff that happens, like the we've only been talking about character beats, and
Right.
there's so much craziness that happens in the background that we didn't even get a chance to talk about.
Yeah. If you like the movie Apollo 13, we've got some moments like that where they're like, we got to crunch some numbers really fast or people are going to die,
Oh,
stuff
when
like
the
that.
when the space hotel started
Yeah.
collapsing.
Mm.
Oh
Oh my
man.
God, I completely forgot about the space hotel.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
another
They
funny
got the
thing
three
is like
times gravity.
people are
Yep.
actually talking about that now. Billionaires are talking about let's create space hotels and have space tourism. And I'm
That's
like, yeah, I
crazy.
don't doesn't
Mm,
sound safe.
Yeah, I've seen For All Mankind. I don't think so, sir.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Honestly,
no thanks.
if they just keep it really expensive, I'm gonna be okay with that. Like, because it'll be dangerous and some people might die. And I'm just
There
saying,
you go.
things get redistributed.
Yeah, we're not going to see a lot of thousandaires die. It's going to be somebody else heirs.
But even the stuff like we talked about it earlier about the two like ships like scraping together and people
Mhm.
happen to be on them, you never see that in like sci-fi movies, but it's like that's a real problem that could happen because spaceships have a lot of mass, and if you don't get it quite right, like, and they just like sort of like go against each other, like
Move
there's
towards
nothing
each
you're
other.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like flattened.
Yep.
So yeah, there are a lot of cool like physics type things that happen in the show, but what I would like about it, because they're not going for like the alien type stuff, it's all real, like as far as like the physics and everything. Like
Mhm.
it's all like stuff that could happen given the circumstances that they show in the show. And so I like that it's kind of like a hard science fiction show.
hmm
Because a lot of
Exactly.
shows nowadays, I think, go for more of the fantasy sci-fi, and I do like having some like hard sci-fi every now and then too.
Hmm.
Even though the end of
Exactly.
season one, you have to give them credit and also not for that massive ending. Credits roll, you think you're at the end of the show, and then they show that freaking rocket,
Yeah,
and it just keeps on coming and coming. And you're like, no effing way. It honestly, it gave me goosebumps. I had legitimate goosebumps when I saw that scene. It's so great. And I won't say anything more about it, but there is a rocket, people, at the end of season one. If you haven't seen the rocket, you are not
Shush,
finished.
shush, 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 shush.
Right. I'm just saying you haven't finished season one yet. That's all.
Spoilers. Yep. Stay to the end of all it. Wait through the credits. Think of a Marvel movie, folks.
yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have anything that you want to see out of season 5 when they're moving into the 20 teens on the show, either from the characters or just the fact that they're now in the 20 teens? Like, Ashley, is there anything that you want to see coming out of the show?
Yeah, that's really interesting to me because I feel like a lot of the interesting part of this show, the draw, is that it's in historical period in the past, but now we're kind of coming up very close to modern times. So even not so much this season, but the one beyond, as we start to move into the future, like what do they see as next for humanity within this timeline? And so, yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how current events and things like that might get interpreted. Like I think of things that were kind of pivotal from my childhood, like 9/11. Is that something that will happen in this universe too? So I think it were like the COVID pandemic. It'll be interesting to see some current events that are very fresh on our minds to see how those are interpreted in the show, or if they don't happen because things have gone a different way. So yeah, I'm
I
kind of
mean, if
curious
they
to
go
see
with
that.
their flipping, maybe the two towers stay up. They thwart those two planes, but
Mm.
they hit the Pentagon.
Yeah, yeah, no, that
Like
could be
they can
interesting.
just flip those things. That would be a lot different. I don't think people would be as impacted by. I mean, it would
Yes,
still
yeah,
be, tragedy. Lots of people died, but not like two giant buildings falling down. Like
right,
the two
like
towers are still standing.
a government target versus something that's a civilian target. And so, yeah,
The,
no,
the
that,
creators, the creators have said that this season is going to be Earth v Mars. Like it's been, U.S. v Soviets, government v private industry. Now it's Earth versus Mars.
Well, especially now that Ed Baldwin's in charge, so it's
oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So
Ed.
Emperor the First.
I know, yeah,
yeah, so
poor Ed.
exactly.
yeah, so
Yeah.
King Baldwin of Mars versus Earth. So it'll be interesting. So there's always that antagonism that'll mirror.
Mm. Yeah,
I was
so
actually one of those people that actually didn't want to see the great heist part of this last season. That actually turned me off a little bit from the show, because I always loved seeing the exploration, the growing, and where mankind was going and everything. And I would love to see them starting to go out past into the asteroid belt and start mining out there,
Mm,
or you know, having, they make it to Jupiter, like to
yeah.
Io, or some of the planets that, have the oceans underneath, and, the science behind that and stuff. And I think that could be really cool stuff
That would
that
be
yeah.
they would
Yeah.
cool.
touch on.
Yeah, the thing was though, if they hadn't done that, the point was that they were going to cut funding from, like, they were going to pull away from Mars because it's like we've got this really resource-rich asteroid that we're
Yeah,
going
we
to put
have
in orbit on
$24
Earth,
trillion
right? And we're
rock.
just
We don't
going
need
to like
Mars.
develop like the things to go to that asteroid and mine it, and we're not going to worry about space beyond that anymore. And so that's one of the things that they wanted to keep it in Mars, not only because it gave Mars like more money, but because then it kept humanity focused towards space. I mean, that's what they
Hmm.
say anyway. Like
Yeah.
they have a broader, like, it also gave them a lot of money. I mean, so that can't be under
And I think we
the
should rename the movie trope of Chekhov's gun to the young Gil gun.
yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ow, ouch.
If you bury a gun on Mars, someone has to get
Yeah.
shot with it.
Yeah, yeah. Mike, is there anything you want to see out of this next season?
I've heard the story that it's going to be, Earth versus Mars also, but I want to see that they're going to probably, it'd be neat if they came up with a 3 planetary, system, like the beginning of a United Planets type thing. So it being Mars, the Moon, and Earth as 3 separate governments that are, type thing. And the beginning, of, working together, but, the tensions and such between. And, geopolitics put aside type thing. Because they're all focusing on the planetary politics now.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I think that could be really
if
cool.
even Earth could unite.
Yeah.
Let alone like creating a planetary alliance. Like, because Mars is out there as its own government, does Earth, do the nations of Earth like truly unite? I mean, that I guess will be a question that they'll answer.
Well, and one thing I thought about too was about the, I guess they don't need it now, but like Mars 94, the Russian spacecraft that got abandoned. I thought it would have been cool if it was, because it was sort of like halfway to Mars when it broke down, that it could have been like a refueling station, like the beginning of a pit stop on the way to Mars. You could move it into a Lagrange point between Earth and Mars.
Yeah.
Or something like that, but they just blew right past it.
They could build a space dock or something like that, type thing with it.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's got a nuclear, it's got, a fusion generator on it. So it's got power. So life support and stuff, you just build it out a little bit. It can be a little.
I wouldn't be surprised with how this show delves back into things if that thing doesn't come up again and is utilized in some way, like in the next season. Even if it's not what you're thinking, Nate, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes up again.
It just felt really valuable, like as a story plot device to hang out there.
Yeah. It's funny. Ashley is kind of thinking the same way I do, because I'm thinking of the terms of the real world. And so I'm thinking of things like maybe not next season, but if they get a season after, like, will they do like the COVID-19, but in space, where now we've got to like isolate, like in like a spaceship, like we're like, we can't go anywhere because we've got, COVID like on the ship.
That's what Kelly finds on Mars.
COVID-19.
The Martian COVID.
But
the Martian flu.
They do like a disease storyline, whether it's COVID-19 or something else, like that, where like, how do people deal with that when they're also already isolated and then having to isolate further, like something like that was an idea I had. I do wonder if they're going to play with the rise of Trump in this show, like, or if they feel like that's a little too, like close to home, with the real world,
Which is some populist demagogue.
Right, exactly.
The fascist authoritarian.
Make America, make Earth great again.
There you go.
Make Earth great again.
Mega.
Mega.
Yeah.
Mega. Mega. Mega.
No,
Oh, there you go.
I know where it's going to go. Kelly's going to find these rocks on Mars, and she touches them, and she ends up in 18th century Scotland.
There you go.
There you go.
She has to reinvent the space program.
Exactly. And she meets this hunky, guy in a kilt with red hair named Jamie.
During a Scottish rebellion, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
how's that for the ultimate crossover?
Yeah. I want to see some kind of a happy ending for some of our older characters. Right? Like, it seems like this show only writes out characters with tragedy, like, and so it's like
Ed is not going to have an happy ending unless
I think
he's gonna die on Mars.
I want Margot to get out of jail and have some bit of happiness from somewhere.
They'll bring her out. They'll bring her out. They'll have some really. They're like, only Margot can know how to do this.
Right. I want some of our character. I don't want it always to be death that like writes a character out on the show, because it seems like that's everything that happens. So I would like for somebody to have like a happy, like, kind of like go off into the sunset, kind of moment. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do.
She deserves that. Let Danielle ride off into the sunset.
That would be
She
fun.
got shot on Mars, so let's have her have the happy ending finally.
And see, that's funny because, with as many characters as they killed off that surprised me, I thought for sure when she got shot, I'm like, oh my God, they're killing off Danielle. Like, I thought that was the end. And that's the time they surprised me by, oh, no, she's fine. I was like, okay, whew. Because I'm not sure my heart could have taken that one. But, all right.
I love
but yeah.
this show, but what a stressful watch.
Oh. And one other thing besides the fact that it is getting a season 5 is that this show is going to get the Star City spinoff that's going to go back to the 60s and take us from the Russian space program point of view. So it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts. Also, and how that's going to synchronize up with For All Mankind and everything. But that is something else that, apparently this show's doing well enough that not only can they keep cranking out more seasons, they can now do spin-offs. So, I mean, that's a good thing. And it probably does mean that we're going to get those 7 seasons that they want out of For All Mankind. So, yeah. All right, but yeah, I think we've been talking about this enough, and we should say goodbye and let people know where they can find us. So, Sean, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me back on. I love this show, and I hope everybody out there goes and tries it out. If you haven't, you can find me at my normal handle on most social media, which is Numaz, which is PNEUMAZ. And if you would like to follow along my wife and I when we go on our journey as PopCycled, selling our wares and having our store open, you can follow us at PopCycled at pretty much every other social media location you can. And you can also go to popcycled.shop if you'd like to see our website and maybe come visit us in Charleston sometime.
Nate?
Oh,
sorry. I said that as you yawn.
Okay. Yeah, you can't really find me on social media. I don't post on social media. But I do want to plug one thing. Another Apple TV show that just came out. It's really good, called Pluribus. No spoilers, but it's
amazing.
Vince Gilligan, some of the same the people, the Breaking Bad people, and it's sci-fi and done in a very interesting way. Very interesting take on a very common story in sci-fi. So I just want to say that it's almost Twilight Zone. It's like a Breaking Bad Twilight Zone.
All right, Ashley.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. You can find me over on the ESO podcast website, blogging about movies, TVs, books. I've been watching a lot of Apple TV recently, some good series on there. So really, you can get a lot of bang for your buck on Apple TV. They're not
What's your review on Predator Badlands?
Oh, thank you. Yes, that caught me by surprise. That was good too. So, yeah, I've gotten to explore some fun stuff this year. So, some good sci-fi out there if you're willing to hunt for
sci-fi.
it.
All right, and Mike.
Of course, you can find me as part of the ESO network. Little thing I started, now going on 13 years ago, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's always been great to have Nathan and Ashley as part of the network. And I also host the Earth Station Who podcast still, and we talk all things Doctor Who. And with Doctor Who's fate up in the air right now, we just, we're just going through old episodes, talking about Big Finish, comics, and, whatever we can get our hands on Doctor Who material wise. We're chatting all about it. You can find us at earthstationwho.com or as anywhere fine podcasts are found. Earth Station Who is there also, as we like to say. I also produce a podcast. It's called Tales from Hollywoodland, where you have 4 former movie producers from Hollywood talking about, the state of the industry now. And they interview folks. They talk about their memories, with different celebrities. And we even have a couple guests every once in a while. It's pretty cool. You can find them at talesfromhollywoodland.com. And, you never know where else I could pop up. It's just tons of fun stuff. I might end up in your bathtub sometime. You never just know. So it's a good thing. But I will.
That turned into a horror podcast.
Gonna go lock our doors, everybody.
Mike just rubbing your shoulders and saying, This is really great.
It's okay, Carol. It's all right. It's Carol. It's okay. Nothing's bad, Carol.
All right, on that note, Sean, Nate, Ashley, and Mike, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
Be well.
you.
All right, that's it for All Mankind. What did you think about the episode? Are you excited for season 5 coming out? What are the things that you would like to happen in further seasons of For All Mankind? Where do you think this whole thing is going? Do you have any ideas for other topics that you would like for us to talk about? You can let us know in all kinds of different ways. One way is to email us at everything@42cast.com. Another way is to go to our Facebook, facebook.com/42cast, and leave us a message there. Or you can go to our website, 42cast.com, and leave us a message on any episode. Or you can contact us on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Threads at 42cast. You can also let us know what you think about the show by leaving us a review on either Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. With Apple Podcasts, the more reviews we get, the higher we show up in searches. So if you have an Apple account, and if you haven't left us a review yet, we'd really appreciate if you would do so. You can help out the show and all the other shows on the ESO Network by contributing to the ESO Network Patreon. That's found at patreon.com/ESO Network. You can get early access to some shows, exclusive access to some shows, and a whole exclusive ESO Network podcast that's only available to patrons. And if you have the funds to contribute, we would really appreciate if you would do so. I have nothing yet to add about getting Time Streams and Legendary Forces off of hiatus. Time Streams, for those who don't know, is my Doctor Who podcast, and Legendary Forces is a Star Wars podcast. I am keeping the 42cast weekly, though. I've cleaned up all of the issues that I had with the RSS feed, so now it's just a matter of getting the time together to get those shows moving again. So keep watching this space for more info there. In Watch News, Beth and I have finished Murderbot. I liked Murderbot. It was fun. Definitely okay with watching a second season. I don't think there was enough there that excited me to do an episode on it. So all that I'll say is, if you've got some time, they're short episodes. They're only about 35 minutes long an episode. I would give it a try. See how you like it. It's certainly fun. I guess mostly harmless is the word that floats in my head, which is, if you haven't read Douglas Adams and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, you might not get that one. But it's mostly harmless. It's not anything that I would say go out of your way to watch. But it's certainly diverting for, like a half an hour a day or whatever, however you want to watch it. We also finished watching Fallout Season 2. That one you can expect an episode on as soon as I can gather a panel together, so you keep watching this space for more on that. We've started watching Paradise, which is a series on Hulu. Basically, it's another post-apocalyptic bunker-type series, but with the added twist that it's following a Secret Service agent investigating the death of the president while in a post-apocalyptic bunker. So it's kind of interesting. I thought it was an intriguing notion. We only watched the first episode so far, but I definitely liked it. We'll continue watching that, and I'll let you know what I think about it. No change in con news. I will be at Chicago TARDIS, but probably won't be at any other cons this year. But if that changes, I will certainly let all of you know. And that is a wrap for this week's episode. Join us back next week when Michael Rennie will not be joining us. And until then, this is Nathan signing off. You have been listening to the 42cast, copyright 2026. Got a question for the ultimate answer? Contact us at everything@42cast.com. Theme music is Sharper Swords by Brandon Ellis. Check out more of his work at www.cityfires.com. The 42cast is a proud member of the ESO Network.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.